Welcome back. Well, the National Park Service has reopened the Cave of the Domes inside the Grand Canyon. The cave, which has previously been the only one open to the public, has since been closed since the end of March.
The Grand Canyon is one of the most studied places on Earth, yet hidden within its walls lies a region that no visitor is ever allowed to enter.
Ever heard of the cave in the Grand Canyon?
It does not appear on public maps, and access is sealed off by federal order.
So we have a great story here in the Grand Canyon.
For decades, rangers have reported equipment failures, missing drones, and strange lights flickering deep within the cliffs where no one is supposed to be.
There are secrets in the Grand Canyon, about the Grand Canyon, that a lot of people have not really disclosed.
Those regions were quietly marked as restricted, but recently, a team of scientists received rare permission to enter one of them, and what they found deep inside the canyon has left the world stunned. The zone no one dared to enter. Hidden deep within the Grand Canyon is a place most visitors never hear about. It is a stretch of cliffs so unstable and remote that even park officials speak of it cautiously. Rangers call it the Forbidden Zone. The cliffs rise almost vertically, their faces marked by deep fractures and scars left by constant rockfalls and powerful gusts. According to park records, the last official descent ended in disaster when a sudden rockfall struck one of the climbers. A boulder hit his shoulder and dragged him against the cliff, tearing his harness and breaking several ribs before the safety line caught. The team managed to pull him up, but the rescue took hours, and their equipment was left crushed at the base of the wall. National park authorities classify the Forbidden Zone as both a geological hazard and a protected cultural site. The cliffs there are prone to sudden collapse, and the ground below is littered with the remains of previous expeditions. According to internal safety reports, even minor vibrations could trigger massive rockfall. Local tribes also requested that the area remain closed, citing long-held traditions connected to what they call the Place of Emergence, a location believed to be one of several entrances to the underworld described in Hopi and Havasupai oral histories. The Hopi and Havasupai are indigenous peoples native to the Grand Canyon region, whose ancestors have lived around its cliffs and rivers for centuries. According to these accounts, the first people are said to have come up from beneath the earth through openings in the canyon and were warned never to return. To tribal elders, that region is sacred ground where the boundary between worlds is thin, and disturbing it risks awakening forces that should remain sealed.
And the ancient Egyptian word tuwat or duwat refers to the underworld, where you go after you die.
By the late 20th century, only a few scientific teams had tried to reach the zone. Early reports mentioned steep drop-offs that appeared without warning. A climbing survey in the 1990s turned back after a near-fatal rockfall. After that, the canyon's Forbidden Zone became one of the last places no one dared to study. That changed in early 2024 when a multidisciplinary research team received rare authorization to investigate the area. After a series of small collapses near the river corridor raised safety concerns, park authorities approved a geological stability study. The team included geologists, climate specialists, and mapping experts from several universities. Their mission was to analyze erosion patterns and stress fractures using advanced LiDAR scanners and spectral cameras capable of capturing data where no one could safely stand. For weeks, the readings appeared normal. The monitors displayed the usual rough layers of limestone and sediment. Then the software rendered a scan from a northern cliff face, and faint arches began to appear in the data. The shapes were symmetrical and precise, glowing on the screen like the outline of hidden rooms. At first, the scientists suspected a calibration error. When multiple devices confirmed the same formations, the tension in the control tent shifted from curiosity to disbelief. According to preliminary reports, the team debated whether to investigate immediately or await further analysis. Curiosity prevailed. Preparations began for a controlled descent into the canyon wall to confirm what the scanners had seen. They did not yet know it, but that decision would lead them face to face with something humanity was never meant to find: the descent into the hidden chambers. The descent began before sunrise. The canyon was quiet except for the sound of metal clinking and the soft rush of wind moving between the cliffs. The research team stood on the rim, staring down at a wall so steep it seemed to drop straight into darkness. This was the Forbidden Zone. the one place even experienced climbers avoided. The scientists knew that one loose rock or a sudden gust could end everything. They double-checked their ropes, tested their anchors, and moved one at a time. Every few meters, they stopped to listen.
It's crazy. This tiny little entrance here opens up into such a massive cave.
Waiting for the faint crack of shifting stone. According to reports, the tension was so thick that even the sound of a falling pebble made someone flinch. It took almost 2 hours before the first major sighting. As the morning light reached the cliff, their headlamps revealed something strange below, a faint shimmer beneath the layers of rock and mineral stains. At first, they thought it was just an illusion caused by moisture, but when they focused their lights, they saw 3 perfect arch shapes cut into the stone. They were high, smooth, and evenly spaced. It was the kind of symmetry that nature rarely creates. One of the climbers whispered that it looked like the entrances to buried doorways. Reaching those openings was no easy task. The team had to carve footholds and clear away centuries of dust. The lead climber reported that the rock surface felt different, harder, smoother, and colder than the surrounding cliff. When they finally reached the first opening, they secured the ropes and entered cautiously. The temperature inside dropped sharply. Their breath came out in small clouds, and their voices echoed in short, flat tones. The air felt heavy, like it hadn't moved in ages. Inside, their flashlights revealed walls unlike anything they had seen before. Instead of the jagged, uneven texture of natural caves, these walls were clean and curved. The surface was so smooth that light slid across it without breaking. It did not look like erosion. It looked like carving. One researcher ran a gloved hand along the wall and said it felt polished, almost intentional. As they moved deeper, the space opened into 3 chambers connected by a narrow tunnel. The first chamber could fit several people standing upright. The second curved inward like a half-dome. The last was smaller but extended farther into the rock. Every wall carried faint grooves, like marks left by tools. Some were barely visible, while others formed shallow patterns that repeated at regular intervals. At the center of the largest chamber, the team found something that made everyone pause.
Dude, look at the room.
A stone platform surrounded by a ring of boulders. The boulders weren't random. They were angled in a pattern that pointed toward the same direction. When measured, the chambers lined up almost perfectly from east to west, as if someone had designed them to follow the path of the sun. For a moment, no one spoke. According to field reports, the group stood silently, each realizing the same thing. This was not the work of nature. Someone had built it. The walls, the angles, the arrangement, it all carried a sense of order. One of the scientists later wrote that walking into that space felt wrong, not because it was dangerous, but because it felt occupied. They could not tell who made it or how long it had been hidden. The air smelled dry and untouched, yet the surfaces looked almost new. It felt like stepping into someone else's design, one researcher said later, but design implied purpose, and the first clue to that purpose waited on the platform itself. The object that shouldn't exist. The platform in the center of the chamber looked plain at first. It was flat and covered in a thin layer of silt like everything else in the room. One of the researchers swept his glove across the surface and froze. Beneath the dust, something metallic caught the light. The team leaned closer, brushing away the sediment until the full shape appeared. It was a circular object about the size of a dinner plate, made of metal that looked far too refined to be ancient. The surface was flawless, smooth, cold, and perfectly symmetrical. When one of the climbers touched it, he pulled back immediately. The metal felt icy, colder than the air around it, almost as if it was drawing in heat. They worked carefully to lift it out of the compacted silt. Using sterilized tools, the team pried it loose and placed it on a padded surface. The object looked newly forged, even though it had been sealed underground for what could have been thousands of years. Its surface didn't rust, flake, or dull under the light. Instead, it gave off a faint bluish reflection, the kind that appears on polished steel. According to field notes, one of the geologists whispered that it could not be natural. It looked made, not formed. To confirm, the team ran a portable X-ray fluorescence test, a simple way to read the metal's chemical makeup. The results stunned everyone. The readings showed a high concentration of arsenic combined with traces of platinum and nickel. This mixture does not exist naturally in the canyon's rocks.
The orange-brown hue suggests the presence of iron or other minerals mixed within the limestone.
It would require extremely high heat and controlled refining methods, something only possible with advanced technology. The equipment was recalibrated multiple times, but every scan showed the same pattern. The data suggested that whoever made this alloy understood metallurgy at a level no ancient culture in North America was known to possess. Around the object were several polished stone fragments arranged in a loose ring. Some pieces curved inwards, fitting together like parts of a broken frame. One section had a shallow groove that matched the disc's rounded edge perfectly, suggesting that it had once been set there intentionally. According to reports, the team debated what it could mean. Some believed it was ceremonial, maybe a sacred relic left by an ancient group. Others argued that it looked functional, part of a larger device or mechanism now lost to time. Under magnification, the object revealed microscopic lines across its surface, thin, straight grooves that looked like they were etched with precision tools. Some team members speculated these were engravings or coded markings, while others thought they were traces left by some kind of advanced shaping process. Either way, the perfection of those lines unsettled everyone. Nothing about it matched the rough, handmade tools known from ancient cultures. Near the edge of the platform, the team found recesses carved into the stone floor, forming a perfect circle that matched the object's size. This raised a new theory. The platform might have been designed to hold the disc in place, either as part of a structure or a ritual base. The discovery made it impossible to think of the chambers as simple caves. They were constructed for a reason, and this object seemed to be at the center of that purpose. As documentation continued, the team's mood shifted from curiosity to unease. The find no longer felt like a scientific breakthrough. It felt like they had uncovered something that did not belong to human history as they knew it. The material, the precision, the design, it all pointed to an intelligence that shouldn't have existed here. One of the scientists later admitted that holding it gave him chills, as though he had touched something from another age entirely. The discovery forced the team to reevaluate everything about the site. If this metal artifact was real, then the canyon's forbidden chambers were not natural formations. They were built by hands that understood both science and symmetry long before such knowledge was supposed to exist. According to reports, the lead researcher stared at the object in silence before finally saying, "If this is real, it changes everything we thought we knew about this place." They had only begun to understand what that meant. Soon, the structure around them would reveal that the disc was only the beginning, the architecture beneath the stone. The discovery of the metallic artifact changed the team's entire approach. What they once thought was a natural cave now looked like a designed structure. To understand it, they launched a full-scale scan of every chamber using laser mapping equipment,
such as those collected by a laser scanner, that represent a 3D shaper object, in this case the walkway and stairwells in the cave.
When the 3D data appeared on their monitors, the images were impossible to ignore. The shapes formed perfect squares and arches that aligned with each other as if drawn with a ruler. Every corner met at clean, exact angles. The curves repeated a precise ratio that matched architectural principles seen in ancient temples from Egypt and Mesoamerica. According to the engineers on site, the precision was too exact for primitive tools or random erosion. Closer inspection revealed something even stranger. The walls carried faint tool marks that repeated in rhythm, almost like a pattern of beats. This suggested that the builders worked together in a synchronized way, striking the stone in sequence under planned direction. It meant there had been leadership, planning, and mathematical knowledge far beyond what scientists believed existed in early North American cultures. In the second chamber, researchers found mineral stains on the walls that formed a faded outline halfway up. Tests confirmed they came from an underground spring that had dried up thousands of years ago. This showed that the builders had chosen a site with access to running water, possibly to store or control it. According to reports, some scientists believe the structure may have functioned as a sacred reservoir or ceremonial space tied to water cycles. At the far end of the last chamber, the team found a small alcove holding a single stone slab. Its surface was carved with looping circles that linked together like a chain. The carvings were smooth, identical, and perfectly measured. Some believe the design might carry coded meaning or represent an early form of mathematics. When the slab was scanned, the distances between each curve followed a repeating rhythm, much like notes in a song or steps in a dance. Whoever made it clearly understood pattern, proportion, and precision. To test the space itself, one researcher called out to check the echo. Instead of scattering, the sound returned in a smooth, even tone. The walls seemed shaped to hold resonance, as if the room had been built to control sound. According to reports, this realization left the team silent. Whoever built the chambers had mastered both stone and acoustics. When the team expanded their scans deeper into the cliff, the instruments detected faint signals that no one could explain. The energies below the canyon. When the scans reached beyond the main chambers, the readings shifted in a way no one expected. Their instruments began to beep in a slow, steady rhythm, a faint pulse coming from deep inside the rock. It repeated every 12 seconds, consistent and unbroken. At first, the team assumed it was interference from their own equipment, but when they powered everything down, the pulse continued. The signal was coming from within the canyon itself, like a heartbeat buried under stone. Under normal conditions, magnetic fields fluctuate at random. They never move in perfect intervals. Yet here the readings rose and fell with mathematical precision. Measurements taken across the chamber showed the strongest energy at the center and weaker readings near the edges, as if something inside the rock was producing a controlled magnetic pattern. One researcher compared it to standing on top of a buried generator that never runs out of power. Theories spread through the group. Some thought underground water might be moving through magnetic minerals. Others believed the alignment was too exact to be natural. According to unverified reports, one geophysicist suggested the builders may have arranged magnetic stones deliberately, channeling the Earth's energy into a repeating cycle. It was an outrageous idea, but the instruments didn't lie. To test the link between sound and magnetism, the team set up speakers inside the chamber. They played a steady, low-frequency tone and watched the readings. Within moments, the pulse from the rock began syncing with the rhythm of the sound. The air started to vibrate, and a low hum filled the room. Not loud, but deep enough to feel in their chests. The entire chamber seemed to respond, as if the stone itself was alive and listening. As they moved their lights across the ceiling, one researcher switched to ultraviolet mode, and that was when the real shock came. Tiny crystals embedded in the ceiling began to glow faint blue. At first, they looked random, but the longer they glowed, the clearer the pattern became. The glowing dots formed constellations. When compared to star charts, the layout matched the night sky as it would have appeared 15,000 years ago. Tests later showed the crystals weren't natural formations created by the canyon's geology. Instead, they were artificial, a blend of stone and metal that had been melted and fused together by intense heat. This kind of process could only happen in a controlled environment, suggesting it was deliberately engineered. Whoever built the chamber had created a glowing star map designed to respond to specific light, preserving an ancient image of the night sky long before any known civilization could have done it. The deeper the team studied, the more the chambers seemed to respond to sound, to light, to magnetic fields. They behaved less like a ruin and more like a living system built into the canyon's core. One researcher wrote in the field log, "It feels like we're inside something designed to think." Yet the most stunning revelation was still waiting beyond the last wall. A sealed passage untouched since the canyon's creation, hiding something the team was never meant to find. The door and the realization. While examining the far wall of the last chamber, the scanners picked up something unexpected. The readings hinted at a small opening in the stone, barely large enough for a micro-drone to pass through. Curious, the team positioned the drone at the narrow fissure and guided it in. Its lights flickered against the damp walls as it squeezed through, sending back grainy footage. Then the space opened up. A hidden cavity appeared on the screen. A smaller, deeper chamber, filled with uneven rock and layers of silt that had built up over centuries. The silence in the control tent was immediate. As the drone advanced, its camera caught something strange lying at the base of the chamber. At first, it looked like broken stone. Then, as the light adjusted, the shapes became clear. Two human skeletons lay side by side, half buried in sediment. The discovery shocked the entire team. For a site thought to be untouched since ancient times, the presence of human remains was impossible to ignore. Nearby, dark streaks covered the wall. Later testing confirmed it was charcoal. Drawn on the surface was a circular symbol surrounded by crude handprints. Some believed it resembled a ritual design, while others thought it was a warning, a sign left by those who never made it out. At the far end of the chamber, the drone's camera revealed something else. A massive slab of limestone blocked what appeared to be another tunnel. The surface of the slab was unnaturally smooth, unlike the rough rock around it. At its center was a single circular indentation. When measurements from the drone were compared with the metallic disc found earlier, the match was exact. Same curvature, same depth, same diameter. The conclusion was impossible to ignore. The disc was not an ornament or relic. It was a key perfectly designed to fit into that indentation. The footage left the team divided. Some wanted to halt the mission immediately, while others argued they had come too far to stop. According to reports, the lead climber volunteered to descend through the fissure and confirm the discovery in person. It was a reckless decision. As he anchored his line and began lowering himself toward the narrow shaft, a section of rock broke loose beneath his feet. He fell several meters before the rope caught, dislocating his shoulder. Moments later, a large boulder crashed down from above, shattering on the floor where the team had been standing seconds earlier. The noise echoed through the chamber like thunder. No one spoke after that. It was clear the area was too unstable for any further attempt. The drone was recalled and the footage reviewed in silence. The scans revealed faint metallic reflections beyond the slab, objects shaped like rods and plates, arranged in deliberate formation. Some researchers believed they were tools or mechanisms, while others suspected a sealed vault of unknown purpose. Whatever it was clear that human entry would be suicidal. The chamber was collapsing in slow motion, and even the smallest vibration risked bringing the walls down. The realization set in slowly. The team was looking at the work of a civilization long forgotten, one that had mastered construction, metallurgy, and geometry thousands of years before history acknowledged such abilities in North America. According to unverified internal reports, the footage was encrypted and immediately sent to higher authorities for examination. Days later, park officials reclassified the area as restricted due to geological instability. No further access was granted. What lay behind that limestone door remained sealed. Some believed it held the final proof of a lost culture. Others warned it contained something that was never meant to be disturbed. Whatever the truth, one fact was certain. The canyon had not yet given up all its secrets. News of the discovery began leaking quietly through private research networks, sparking debate, disbelief, and fear that what had been found deep below might rewrite everything we thought we knew about human history. The silence and the legacy. In the weeks that followed the team's return, the atmosphere around the project changed completely. According to reports, federal agents arrived unannounced and collected every piece of field data, every hard drive, and every sample taken from the site. The team was told that the material would be reviewed for safety and verification, but no one was given a timeline or an explanation. The researchers were ordered to remain silent until a formal review was completed. Emails to journalists and academic partners went unanswered. It was as if the entire project had vanished overnight. Unverified reports claimed that soon after, the National Park Service officially reclassified the entire area of the Forbidden Zone. It was marked as geologically unstable and permanently closed to visitors. Within days, new warning signs appeared along nearby access trails, citing rockfall, sinkholes, and toxic gas. A federal notice declared that any attempt to enter would result in legal action. To the public, it looked like a simple safety measure. To those who had been there, it felt like a cover-up. Behind the scenes, the expedition's website and public database were quietly taken offline. Archived maps of the region were updated to remove the access routes to the site. Even the original survey records were marked as incomplete. Then, about a month later, a 30-second clip surfaced on an obscure forum. The footage showed fragments of the drone video, the glowing blue ceiling, the skeletons, and the smooth limestone wall with the circular indentation. The clip spread quickly before being taken down within hours. Scientists who saw the footage were divided. Some believed it was authentic and called it one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the century. Others dismissed it as fabricated, arguing that the details looked too perfect. Government agencies later released a brief statement saying the footage had been digitally altered, but no further clarification was given. Those who had worked on the mission knew that was not true. Several of them quietly left academia, citing personal reasons. Others refused interviews, saying only that the discovery was never meant to be disturbed. In the months that followed, speculation spread online. Some claimed the team had uncovered evidence of a forgotten civilization. Others said the site was linked to ancient energy technology. Indigenous leaders stepped forward, urging the government to protect the canyon's sacred sites, warning that the place might have been sealed for a reason. According to multiple sources, the restricted zone remains under surveillance. No permits have been issued, and no independent researchers have been allowed near the site. For the few who had seen the footage, the memory of that place has never faded. One anonymous researcher later said, "We did not just find a structure, we found something that remembered us." Whether the canyon was sealed to protect humanity or to protect something else remains unknown. What do you think really lies behind that wall, and why do you believe it was hidden for so long? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.